story about a boy named Jonathan Steele. He grows up in a lower middle class family where he is the second of two boys. The older boy, Michael, is the favorite of the parents. And the parents are always looking at Jonathan, who is really the central character to the Crimson Idol. They're always looking at him as, you know, why are you here? Because effectively he's a mistake of nature. He's not wanted. And the older brother gets killed in a car crash on Jonathan's 14th birthday, and the parents are always looking at Jonathan like, why wasn't it you instead of him? So he spends his life basically trying his best to convince his parents that he is worthy of their attention and their affection. It's to no avail. It doesn't work for him. So he discovers music, and he decides, you know, that he's going to run away from home and seek his fame and fortune in the music industry. And so he does, and he runs away. And he becomes one of the biggest things the world has ever seen. I mean, he's a superstar. But this story is not so much about someone's rise to stardom. This is more about a journey that a boy takes and the people that he meets along the way. Because there's 9 different characters in the Crimson Idol, and Jonathan, although he is the essential character, he is only one. Because this album is loaded with all kinds of subplots and things like that. Charlie is supposedly the president of one of the biggest record companies in the world. And the chainsaw is symbolic in this story, that the chainsaw is the record industry itself. There's a line that Charlie uses to Jonathan in the story, or in the narration, where he's explaining to Jonathan what the business is about. And the title of the song is called Chainsaw Charlie and the Murders in the New Morgue. And he explains to Jonathan that the morgue is the place, it's that part of the industry on the inside where all artists will eventually whore themselves to commercialism. It's the place where the music comes to die. So in other words, he says, all these ideas you have of musical integrity and things like that, you can throw them right out the window, because if you're going to do it, you're going to come through me, and if you come through me, you do it my way. The Idol is the beginning of the end of this boy, because the whole idea behind this story, like I said, it's not so much someone becoming famous, it's the journey that he takes. And what he discovers at this point in this show, or in this video, or the album for that matter, is that he was better off at the bottom of the mountain looking up. He was miserable, but at least he had somewhere to go. When he's on the top of the mountain and he's still miserable, there is nowhere to go. And there's only one way out for him. And that way out for him is death. Because at that point in his life, he goes back to his parents. He's thinking that now he's famous. And there's no way that they can refuse him his just dues, right? And so he calls them on the phone. He hasn't spoken to him for years, thinking that they're going to welcome him home, the prodigal son return.
It was hard for me to speak. My heart was pounding out of my chest. But when I did the best I could. She was very cold. But I knew the shock of suddenly hearing from me after all these years was overwhelming. And I was hoping that all the time that had passed would heal the deep wounds between my parents and me, but I desperately wanted them to approve of me, to accept me. It was all I ever wanted. I hoped my success would finally prove my worthiness and they'd welcome the prodigal son home. All I wanted was for them to be proud of me. But less than 50 words were spoken. The last foreword. We have no son.
It took me a year just to write the story. Because like I said, when you get into multiple characters, like I said, you just can't put a name on them. I mean, they've got to live and breathe. And it's very ironic for me to watch this whole thing unfold now, because these characters that I've been living with for a couple of years that were very, very real to me, I'm seeing come to life right before my eyes, and I cannot explain to you the gambit of emotions that I've run through watching this. I'm like, my God, there they are, you know. And it's very, very strange to have something rattling around in your gourd up here, and then all of a sudden one day, wow, you know, or like more like wham, you know, here it is, you know. So it's going to be hard for anybody to watch this and just not be riveted to their seats. And I'm not saying because I wrote it. I've watched these people and the performances that they've given in here. It's very, very moving, very, very convincing. It's like the anti-Spinal Tap.
Standing by, shooting through, Okay, let's go. And, we'll play back.
Ralph Zeman is the guy directing this, and he's renowned already. I mean, he's in the top of his field as we speak. But he's given me the freedom to interject, and I mean, he asks me more often than not. I mean, I'll sit down there with him and work with the actors while it's going on and stuff. So it's been great for me, because he understands that there's only visions that I have in my mind, because I've been living with this longer than anybody. And there's certain things that I'm looking for that I gotta see to get it to be real to me. In this boy's life, nothing is what it appears to be. So everything, although you say, well, you understand it, everything on this album is written in riddles. And you cannot understand the album without the story or the narration. And the story is printed in the entirety, or in its entirety inside the album. But you can't understand the album without the story, and you can't understand the story without the album, and the two cross-reference each other. And there's all kinds of little hints about who he is, and I would say at this point that everybody thinks that he is the Crimson Idol. He is not the Crimson Idol. And all the answers, people are going to have a lot of questions about this record, about who is what, and why did this person do that, and why did this person do that. And I won't tell them anything. I go, it's all there. Every question that anybody will ever come up with is all in there. And if it's not in the lyrics in the album, it's in the story. And if it's not the story, it's in the lyrics.
There's a flame in my heart.
One of the first questions people ask me is this story autobiographical? And I say, no, it's not. There's two parts of me that are in this story. One of them is Chainsaw Charlie, the experience I had with someone like that. And the other one is a song called The Gypsy Meets the Boy, which is something that actually happened to me. Somebody read my fortune to me years ago, and it has come true exactly the way that they said it would. And it actually happened to me on two different occasions by two different people that told me exactly the same story. So I thought it was an interesting bit that I would put in the story. But like I said, as far as being autobiographical, what I did is I know a lot of guys in this business, and so I took a little bit from one guy's personality a little bit from one, another, and a little bit from another, a little bit of me, and put them all together, and that's who Jonathan is. A lot of people say, is it Jim Morrison, is it Jimi Hendrix, you know, and it's none of those, but it's all of them, and it's 10,000 more you never heard of, you know, so there's a lot of people that have and will continue to fit this description.
Be careful what you wish for. It may come true. Long the key of mercy.
Rock and roll is supposed to be sweaty and smelly, and I agree with that. But it's also, like I said, it's this great platform that we can use it for constructive measures as opposed to being destructive. Or one, you know, and I'm not saying this about new bands, because all new bands when they first come out, you know, somebody says to them, well, you got to be responsible now. You got this big tool to work with, and you know, and the only thing you're worried about, you're thinking, shit, I just got a record deal. I'm getting laid. You know, it's like, that's all you got on your mind, you know. It's like, what, responsibility? You can't be having any of that, you know. And I know, I went through the same thing. Every new band does that. So they're singing about those type of things. Like I said, but after you've been there for a while, you say, okay, there is more to life than news, weather, and sports.
again. I mean, do you think that that's...
There's a flame, flame in my heart, and there's no rain can put it out. And there's a flame, it's burning in my heart. And there's no rain, who can put it out? So just hold me, hold me, hold me. Take away the pain inside my soul. I'm afraid, so